Okay, just in the demonstration, we're going to show full support of a modern mainframe CI/CD pipeline. We're using IBM, an open source based DevOps stack. We'll show how quickly it is to stand up and shut down a pop-up virtual mainframe in minutes. We're going to showcase the fast track and snapshot and reset an instance to show you how quickly you can recover and repeat your testing. And we're also going to show a bit of Ansible, and that's all about improving automation and empowering the teams with self-service operations. And just quickly, the demo application is the similar ones we showed last year, well, same name, NextGen Bank, and that's a web-based UI. It's using ZOS Connect to the back end, and it's got a mixture of our old friends, Cobol Check and DB2. Just so you understand, the back end for the NextGen Bank is running on a pop-up in dev test. In a real-world example, it would be production on a mainframe. So you get the idea of what we're trying to show there. So into the demonstration. So before we start, the first thing we need to do is stand up a virtual mainframe environment to use. So we're going to invoke an instance of the PopUp Mainframe, or PopUp as we call it. And you can see we're actually standing the X edition up in the Azure cloud. As I said, we've got the two types of PopUp, as you saw on both sleeves. One is for the x86 hardware and the cloud, and the other runs on Linux One and Linux Z for all the reasons that we've discussed. So they both provide the same ability to provide a virtual ZOS on demand. And for Azure, it takes around 9 minutes to install. So now we're IPLing, logging on to a familiar TSO, and we're getting into ISPF in a safe, happy space. So now standing up a PopUp Z edition, this is actually a lot easier and quicker to install. Apart from us having to sign the license key, we like to protect our IP, but it's literally running a couple of commands, and then again, you can just log straight into TSO, and you see there, and again, exactly the same ISPF. So now we've actually stood the environment up. We're going to show you how we're going to make a change. So you could then install your applications by migrating that data in config, or if you've already done that and you put it into Git, then you would just check it out and build it from Git. But here we're showing our NextGen Bank system, and we've built this sample application, and we're going to show the customer transaction history here on the UI in ascending order, oldest first. So we're going to show there's a new request in from a user who wants to see that changed around, which means the transaction history needs to be sorted in descending order. But before we make the change, we're going to show you how we can take a snapshot of the entire ZOS environment, so we can return to any snapshot with the self-service capability. And so this means you don't need to worry about potentially breaking the environment to do this. So this is just us literally, checkpoint's done. It literally takes a couple of seconds to run the checkpoint. Sorry?
You can give the snapshot an arbitrary name?
Yes, you can. So
that's what I saw. That's what's happening up there.
Yeah, so you can give it a name, and then that goes into a database, so you can then choose which one you want to go back to and just label them in a sensible fashion.
Yeah. I like to label them just a random string of time code numbers, down to the millisecond precision, because that really is usable later on.
You need to get out more.
Yeah.
Can you name it Stephen?
It just
next time, next demo.
Would work for
With a PA.
Anyways, so here's our ZOS delivery pipeline. Indeed, any pipeline, you're planning to adopt will run on a PopUp mainframe. In our example, we're using a standard IDE to do the development, and then we're doing a series of build and unit test steps before deploying the code and running system tests. Of course, there could be other phases in your pipeline. They could be security verification. But here now we're going to show the code change, and the first time we do it's going to be in VS Code. So the developer checks out the code from the GitHub repository, and then they're going to modify the query to retrieve the rows in descending order, then commits and pushes the code back to the GitHub repository, and then by checking it in, the CI/CD pipeline is automatically triggered by the code check-in. This pipeline uses GitHub Actions, which in this example builds the code using the IBM DBB facility, and then it conducts a series of unit tests using the open source tool Cobol Check. And you can see the results of the unit tests here, which have all been successful. And then it's going to push the compiled binaries into an artifact repository, Artifactory. These binaries are then deployed onto a different ZOS instance using IBM Deployment Facility WASI Deploy, where we're going to run integration tests using the Galasa open source testing framework. And unfortunately, you can see the Galasa test packs have reported an error. And you can see the failure there. And looking in our original UI, we can now see that the balances are now blank. As it turns out, the developer has overlooked some logic which was there for testing purposes. In situations like these, it's very useful to be able to go back in time to a previous state and restart from there. So again, we're going to use in fast track, and very simply, the developer just can run a command to rewind the entire ZOS system, and we're now back to the previous state, and we can see the transaction history as it originally was in ascending order. So now we want to go and fix the logic error, and this time we're going to use IDZ to do the development, so they can choose their own development tool, or it could either be an RSPF if you wanted it to be, and you could trigger the pipeline manually. It doesn't really matter. So now the code has been fixed correctly, and we're going to commit the changes back into GitHub, which triggers the pipeline again, and the pipeline is going to run again. And this time, magically, and for the developers' benefit, all the steps are passed. And now, if we go into our UI, we can see the order of the transaction history has been changed to support the user request, and it's been successfully developed and tested. And the valid data is now in descending order.
So then what would happen? Right, because this is still in. So is there a way to automate? I don't even.
Correct, yeah. So that pipeline was just handling the beginning part of the develop unit test process. So in a typical DevOps, right, after that, you could then use exactly the same pipeline to promote, say, into a system integration test. That could be on a physical mainframe using the exact same pipeline and software, using DB deploy. So we help organizations do their end-to-end route to live DevOps. So you can use this where you're repeating frequently and you're recompiling and rebinding. It's much better to be doing it on a virtual pop-up than using vital, MSUs on the physical mainframe.
Really great point.
So you really, by using this technology, you only the last compile would need to be on a real physical system, because again, that's one of the license stipulations. You must only run code that you've compiled on a physical mainframe, not on a pop-up. But the previous 20 compiles would be on a pop-up at no cost.
Yeah, you're getting
in terms of your MSUs.
And then things like user acceptance testing and performance testing presumably goes on the final LPAR as well. Performance
testing, correct, would definitely be, because otherwise your hardware emulation, it would perform differently. So you would be comparing apples and pears. But you could use pop-ups for doing, say, SQL performance and seeing how queries are running. And you can see it going faster and faster by doing it again and again. So there is some performance tuning you can do, but just understanding what performance work that is. But yeah, you could have, you could go straight through to live, and it could be a final approval before it's promoted live using the same DevOps toolchain. Yeah, so you can do that. So you saw how we deployed a mainframe code change using automation, and now we're going to show you how you can streamline operations and simplify management using Ansible playbooks. Ansible became part of the 3.1 release, and so we've done a lot of work here with PopUp to help clients simplify the management of them. And you can use an existing Ansible orchestration node, or you could actually run it on the PopUp if you're completely new to Ansible. So we've got the node on the PopUp, and these come with a series. PopUp comes with a series of Ansible playbooks that are shipped with a PopUp, and we also make them available in a GitHub repository we give to our clients. So we're developing all of the time, and they can just take new versions or take new playbooks. So in this one, you don't need to have any RACF skills or knowledge to better use this. You could just use a file to put in the username, and the playbook would do the rest. So here we're defining a new user, a new starter called Trump D, and they're just logging on to TSO. We've also, same as creating, we can remove users, and this is someone that's decided to leave us and join someone else, and we run the similar playbook. Biden Joe is leaving, found pastures new.
Why didn't Joe ever a running application?
So it's
And so there we go. So that was just a very quick example how we can put the operations into the hands of developers, and that using Ansible playbooks, those can be joined up in other DevOps automation pipelines. So your creation and remove user could be joined up from your ServiceNow or whatever, and be through end to end, and just streamline operations. Shutting down PopUp is really straightforward and easy as well. So it's a bit like wanting to tell your children to switch the lights off when they leave the house. Again, users can shut down the PopUp in a very straightforward way, and that is great for not leaving environments idle, and just help meeting your sustainability objectives. All right, so just to recap what you've seen, I'm going to return to the pipeline diagram once more. So what you saw is a fairly commonplace and simplified application development process, and this has all been running on the PopUp Mainframe environment. You can also use the pipelines to install full applications on demand from Git, and we work with our clients to do that, to put their applications. So if they just need to create an environment on demand, they can pull the application out and maybe the batch also from stored in Git and Artifactory, and produce that into an environment. And you can also use the pipelines to perform DBA kicks and IMS like admin tasks. So whereas before you need to page out to other members of the mainframe team to do specific work, you can have the pipeline do that work. So that really empowers the developer community and gives them the freedom to get on and deliver. And within project teams, if you can reduce the project team size down to 1 or 2, that's massive. We're going to reduce the costs of development projects. You saw how quickly we installed a PopUp and how straightforward it was to bring a brand new technology stack up and running, and the opportunity to completely modernize the way you work. And that wouldn't disrupt any other users in the organization using existing dev test LPARs, because that can be a challenge to actually install new software and do new things where resources are really at a premium, and you just can't also find resources to install software. We also saw how easy it was to checkpoint and roll back, and this provides a powerful, resilient way to test out changes without the effort of delay of environment setup work. And we pretty much showed you app dev reimagine. As with a pop-up, it's easy to begin your DevOps journey from a standing start because you get all that software in straight away in the immediate install. So, and then that was from an app dev perspective, but I think pop-ups, and we've worked with a number of clients to remove technical debt and either doing code refactoring and batch refactoring, because it's very straightforward to just keep on undertaking tasks, and if they're not working, and just rewind that out and start again. And quite often, it's very difficult for organizations to decommission old software and config, but if you know you need to get output of 20, 30 results, you can keep on taking away until you still get that same result, and just reducing down your environment. Another key advantage of pop-up is by using the modern tools and IDEs, you make the mainframe accessible to non-green screen users, and that's really helpful because there's so much other knowledge in the enterprise that don't have mainframe skills. They could be understanding test automation, and you can use those skills now by using the Galasa testing framework and bring that other knowledge into mainframe without actually having to hire mainframe specific test automation experts. So it really opens up the mainframe to other users within the organization, and that's going to further drive down costs if you can use those other commodity skills.
So there's been significant movement in, as far as I understand, in among mainframers towards DevOps, longstanding. I think it's appropriately methodical and cautious as opposed to what I might call the Silicon Valley approach of let's dive in and find out later if it's problematic. But my point is that's still within, let's say, the mainframe paradigm. This is a breakout from that. It's maybe a safe one. Maybe it's not a breakout, depending on how you define where the line is, because you're emulating. I feel like you're really holding the frontier tight. That said, though, aren't you encountering this sort of cultural issue as you address this real problem, which is, that all sounds. I mean, I understand that you're allowing non-cloud, on-prem, IFL and Linux One implementations, but nonetheless, this is now, like, a lot of these examples are really exciting to me.
Yeah,
because I work a lot in the cloud native and DevOps spaces, but I could see it being rather alarming and among a lot of your clients. And I'm just asking about the cultural clash.
And with anything modernization, DevOps, there's always that challenge. So what is great about this is that you can put it in, and then one or two people from existing forward-thinking application team can go and do something really new and groundbreaking. And then it's all about playing that back to other teams, showing them what they can do. And, I think deep down, people always want to work smarter and better. So if they can see making their job easier and taking out a lot of repetition, they will want to do it. But as you say, there's always, we often come across lots of naysayers. You can't do this, and it's hardware emulation. It's not the same. Well, it looks and feels exactly the same. You're running the same code base. Go and show some progress, and once you've shown it and played it back, everyone wants it. And so teams are bending over each other backwards to get hold of it, because their jobs become, there's a lot of mundanity about running bits of scripts and tests and all these sorts of things. If that can all be done by the technology, you can deliver so much more change. So I think it does have to be sponsored. It does have to, anything with DevOps has to be sponsored from the top. So funding does have to be available, and it does need to be change managed. It needs to be change managed like anything. That doesn't go away. But I think if you can show real tangible results, And then that's the breakthrough when other technical people go, whoa, I want some of that. And then you're there.
I'm with you on most of that. It's that
Yeah.
it's passing over that threshold, because I can see you pitching to management, app managers and so forth, and they're just eating it up. And then there's that part of the process that is not necessarily visible to you, where they're going back to the team and they're saying, I hear something. And then what I call the gum snappers, which are these technical folks, are sitting there just going, oh, well, yeah, but here's the 5 things that I need to do every single day that obviously this is not going to be able to do, is going to do poorly. Like the naysayers that you don't necessarily get direct access to. If it is being like change management, and if it's being pushed through organizationally, then I hear you that you're starting to show examples, and these gum snappers, compatriots, are sitting there doing, look at all these things I've done, and there's jealousy, and there's that acceleration. But I feel this, I sense this potential resistance in your initial pitch, in your initial value.
I think that can be helped by having younger members of the team that have always worked in this way. So introducing these more distributed type skills into the mainframe, younger, guys in their 20s,
that as a feature,
pick stuff up very quickly.
To all this innovation and stuff.
Yeah.
The gum snappers, that is a problem. That's not a feature. That's a problem.
To some of older members, it could be, but as we all know, in the mainframe world, there is addressing that skill shortage is imperative. And I think
if you'd have launched this product 5 years ago, there'd have been that problem. I've been coming to Share for years. You see this environment, the age profile. I don't know what the demographic data is. Share have probably got it, but the demographics of this environment are changing. And I think what the more experienced professionals, let's call them that, are seeing, and I've talked about it in a couple of sessions so far this week, they're having to be less resistive to change because the demographics, whereas it was 10 old guys who could all just gang together and not do anything and be very resistive to change as a block. Now there's probably 7 of them, but the 3 that have been cycled in over the last 5 years, they're younger, and they're looking over their screen going, oh, what are they doing? That's cool. Yeah. And they're getting dragged along. So I think that demographic's changing.
But I think there's 2 points to come back to your question. There'll be different teams. So you go to the development team. They'll be all over this. The managers will be all over this. The systems programmers will be all over this, going, this is great. We don't have to do this anymore. They can look after themselves. The security folks are going to have kittens, because they see in their mind their mainframe data going off the platform. Mm-hmm. Keeping it on the IFL, that's a big positive win.
Game changer.
Okay? But Sunday, I sat in an IBM closed door session, and they're talking about simplification. How do we make this platform easier to manage? And you got all these old crusty guys going, no, we're not doing this. I was sat at the back of the room, and I just wanted to stand up and say, it is not for you. You've just got to help make it simpler so the folks coming in behind you can do it. This is not for the old crusty folks. Yeah, this is for the next wave of mainframers and mainframer developers, and this will make a huge difference.
And it's so funny you said that, Mark. I was thinking exactly the same thing. I was thinking the great thing about if they were to use a pop-up, then it doesn't matter if they stuff up IDMS or do something horrible. You just rewind it back out. It doesn't matter. So fortune really follows the brave with this technology, and you sort of remove the risk.
It's self-sufficient, and that's the thing. They don't have to go and ask. Yeah, Stephen, who's the head of mainframe, can I have an LPAR? They don't have to go to Jeff, who's the data storage guy. Can you restore all those databases for me? Think, done.
This is the conversations we had with VMware 25 years ago when it first came out. The exact same conversations of, you can train people to do open systems. You can do all of these things and stop having to run inlines on asymmetrics, So this was the same absolute problem we had with mainframes, but it went away because there was so much value to being able to virtualize this and being able to make a difference in the organization.
It's been too slow for too long because it's not allowed to move fast and break things because it's too important.
Important, yeah.
Well, now you can.
But this
because you can just restore after.
This allows them to just break it. I mean, we've got youngsters in the business, and we give them their own little LPARs, but we back them up ourselves. We haven't got all this technology, but we say to them, yeah, if you break it, you fix it. And by the way, if you want to restore it, that's how you restore it. Yeah? You've just made it really easy for them because, I mean, I know this is a DevOps play, but for me, this is a great systems programmer training tool and techie playground for
Well,
them.
you also have the other end. You talk about the old crusties and what happens. Because I'm assuming you can back this up on a daily basis, do a backup on a daily basis, a snapshot on a daily basis if you want to. Right?
Well, you can back it up in multiple ways.
What happens if all of a sudden the main database is gone, cattywampus? You could bring that back from there. Maybe even a ransomware attack comes into play. All of a sudden, you're bringing that back using that snapshot, and you're back up and running within 1/5 of the time than if you had to deal with the ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
That is a future use case I've been thinking about on how you can, where you can back up, flash back up all of the volumes. And then you can create copies onto PopUp from the flash and use that to restore, and particularly for production fix, because you can keep on replaying scenarios that way. So I've been thinking about that. Anyway, let me wrap up. We focused on the technical tasks in this with the demo, but we can see the potential benefits of using this, and we've proven with clients that there's been a 400% improvement in time to market using this technology by doing this early testing. It's great for CIOs, sustainability initiatives. We can shut down these environments. And one of our clients on running their environments in Azure, just by having them down 12 hours a day, save the license bill as well. So it has a sustainability and a cost saving if you're running in Azure. But again, switching these environments off anywhere is a pretty new concept for mainframe. We truly believe that PopUp Mainframe revolutionized mainframe delivery by providing teams with a immediately available, fully functioning mainframe environment, and just reproducing more of them, and to meet your use cases becomes really straightforward. And as I said, I think it's with what we've done with Fast Track is definitely a game changer for environment management and environmental management as well through sustainability. But thank you very much.